That's right back, Charlie.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Man. Come on.
There's always just that active red line defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again. It's West Ham against Arsenal on Sunday. This is a man that we've been trying to get this done for a while. I'm happy that we're finally doing this. Jamie, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. How you doing?
Minor, man. I'm good, man. I'm still riding the high of beating Liverpool. Obviously, towards the end of last year, it was terrible. Now it's great, and we're the best team since sliced bread and all of those sort of things, man. But we're doing war on Sunday. You lot have had our number, man. So let's get straight into it, man. In fact, before all of that, let people know where they can find you and the sort of content you make and things, man. I'm a big fan of plugging people.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, mate. So you can find me under Jamie Talks on everything, whether that's like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Jamie.talks. I'm a big West Ham fan. I'll make content around West Ham, of course, and then of course you might see me on shows like DR Sports on the weekend and whatnot. So, yeah, that's where you'll find me, guys.
That's where you need to head, and he's even done a few bits and pieces with some players. If you head to his Twitter account, all his information will be in. I almost forgot what it's called. The YouTube description when this video is out, man. Before we get specifically into West Ham and Arsenal, what have you made of your season? Because just from quickly browsing you lot, since you've beaten us, it's been a bit of a wobble, really and truly. Like, what paint a picture for a non-West Ham fan as to how you lot feel at this moment in time, bro?
Yeah, the mad thing is, our last competitive win came against you guys in December. We haven't won since then. Obviously, we've been knocked out of both the cups, and we haven't won in the league. Obviously, the winter break was part of that. It's hard to complain too much as a West Ham fan right now, purely because we're sitting 7th in the league, and I think we're fighting above expectations, really, and we're still in Europe. I think we've been quite unlucky, and it's easy. It's a cop-out answer. I think we've been quite unlucky in the last month or so with injuries and whatnot. But our good players are starting to come back, so I think we can start picking up results. I'm not one of the Moyes out guys. I'm a Moyes in guy. I think some of the stuff he's doing at the club right now, he's kind of working magic. He's taking us from 17th in the table to 7th in the league.
Won a European trophy last year, man.
Won a European trophy, yeah. And whatever fans want to say about that trophy, man, that's like one of the greatest days of my life. You know what I'm saying?
It's a European trophy, no matter what people have to say.
I will take it, yeah.
I mean, you're bang on the money there, but you touched on something because obviously I'm not a West Ham fan. The whole David Moyes debate, where is all of that? Because I mean, as you said, you sit 7th. I think if you win your next game, you put pressure on Manchester United, who unfortunately you lot lost to. Like, what are the criticisms of David Moyes? And as you said, you're a David Moyes in. What's the good about David Moyes? Obviously, he's a Premier League veteran of sorts.
I think a lot of the issues that some West Ham fans have with David Moyes is a style of play. And I'm not really a stat heavy guy, but if you look at kind of like our RXG in terms of the amount of points per RXG, it's like one of the lowest in the Premier League, and we're like near the bottom of the table in terms of, you know, what we should be getting out of games, so to speak. So the football isn't always good to watch, and I think a lot of the time, you know, we have genuine quality players in our team, and I think some West Ham fans feel like we play with the shackles on. So we might kind of sit back and try and pick you off and whatnot. And that has been effective, you know, in some big games like against Tottenham or against you guys when we beat you 2-0 and you had like 30-odd shots on our goal. Yeah. So we win ugly. And I think a lot of West Ham fans don't like that. I think they want more attractive, expansive football. And they want, you know, the players that we've got, you know, your Paquetás, your Kudus, you know, your Jarrett Bones to be able to play more free-flowing football. The reason I'm not necessarily for that, of course, you always want to see better, attractive football. Of course you do. The reason I'm not necessarily for that is I've seen my club relegated twice in my life. And I don't know what manager we could get that's out there that could get us playing that attractive, expansive football that's really going to come in and change, you know, just change our identity, you know. So I think that's where West Ham fans sit. They're like, some are on this side, some are on that side. And quite often, West Ham fans are like the most unhappiest fans in the world.
You should see ours, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's an interesting perspective because last season, you know, you won the Conference League and stuff, and I do feel it kind of changed the narrative around the football club because it did kind of paper over what would have probably been a disappointing Premier League season last year. Do you think that brought a bit of a double-edged question? Do you think that brought David Moyes some time, and do you think he'll be there next season?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think we were terrible last year. I think like over the calendar year, we weren't very good in the league. Like we were like near relegation form. But our form in Europe, like we created the record for like 17 unbeaten and like 17 win streak. So our form in Europe probably kept him in a job. And obviously winning the cup was our first major trophy in decades. So that's probably given him a bit of juice in the bank. What I want to say, though, obviously, is like, you know, he's taken us from 17th in the table to, you know, being 7th to even be in Europe is kind of...
Yeah, you're flirting with your European qualification for next year, man. Europa League, maybe Champions League mathematically as well. So you can't really let
this is what a lot of rival fans don't really understand when it comes to West Ham. And like, I'm the most optimistic West Ham fan, but like, these are the glory years for me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
as you said, back-to-back relegations.
Man, like you might laugh at that as an Arsenal fan because you've seen your club win leagues. You've seen.
Yeah, no, I'm not one of them snooty Arsenal fans, man.
You know what I'm saying? But like,
I hear it.
But like for me, man, like seeing my club win anything was not something I ever really expected, and that's the vast majority of fans up and down the country. And like I feel like lots of clubs on a similar level to West Ham or even below would like dream of those days out. So like Thursday, being able to watch my team on a Thursday night in Europe and like end up winning that competition, like. You know, I could have died a happy football fan that day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I won't know how it feels to win a European trophy. I think my club underachieving that, so hopefully we could be mentioning the same thing. Do you know, above David Moyes, are you disappointed with the owners? Because, yeah, you've won a European trophy, but I look at what Brighton have been doing, potentially Newcastle. I know Newcastle's an anomaly because they've spent money. Villa kind of have been expensive as well, but West Ham were kind of expected to be one of those clubs that kind of reach them realms. How do you feel about the ownership or the people above David Moyes?
Well, it's always the way, like, there's always so many rumours, like, swirling around the hierarchy of West Ham, whether there's arguments between David Moyes and Sullivan or Tim Stighton and Sullivan and all these people. All I do know is that, you know, we sold Declan Rice, like a generational player for us. I think you guys are obviously seeing how good he is this year. We've been seeing that for years. And I think we've put that money to good use. And, like, everyone we've brought in, you know, I don't know who's been solely responsible for it. You hear reports of what might have it's David Moyes or David Sullivan or Tim Stighton. One thing I will say is that the players that we've all brought in, West Ham look a stronger side as a result. So something clearly is working. That isn't without its flaws, of course, because we've just gone through a January. We only brought in like a Calvin Phillips who hasn't played football in 18 months, and we let 3 squad players go. So you can maybe ask the ambitions of the club when, you know, you're sitting 6th in the table and you've got quite a thin squad. And, you know, going into that Manchester United game, we had 4 youth players on the bench. So there's just things like that, like where you might raise eyebrows, but it's hard. It's really hard as a West Ham fan to honestly, like, I get it. I get some fans' frustrations, but it's hard to sit here when we're 7th in the table and be like, no, we need to change this and this, because it's like, these are the glory days, guys. Like, I've seen, like, go back and look at like the lineups that we had under like Slaven Bilic and stuff like that. That worked
in the trenches, man.
You know what I'm saying? We were in the trenches, like we've been in the trenches. So the fact is, like, now we're out here, we're fighting above our weight. Like over Christmas, we were like top of the form table, like, you know, beat Tottenham, beat Arsenal, all these clubs, and it's just like, you know, I think we've got to have perspective on things. You know what I mean?
I mean, you said it there, and it's a difficult one for football fans, especially where all the points you've mentioned and the European trophy. I feel a bit like that with Arsenal. Like, obviously, we should be aspiring to win stuff. We probably could have won a Premier League title. Certain variables happened last year, but I do think people aren't, you know, everything's always white and black, bro. It's like, if you believe this, then that. I think Arsenal fans, we kind of have to be grateful, you know. There was a few years ago, we were saying Rob Holding and Pablo Mari were our best centre halves, and I'm not exactly. It's crazy, isn't it? And I'm not saying
COVID Arsenal was
exactly. COVID Arsenal was entertainment for everyone, and probably us winning the FA Cup in that region, in that period, if I remember correctly, you know, papered over cracks. And I understand the ambition and things. And I always say last season, in line with our project, that was probably the best and worst time, because it shows what a project can do, but it also arouses imagination and kind of makes fans be a bit impatient for success and things. Not saying we shouldn't, you know, we should have more patience, because it's been 20 odd years, but it's an interesting one. You touched on it, and I can't have a West Ham fan here What have you made of Declan Rice in an Arsenal shirt? Because I must admit, I think all football fans deserve to give you lot an apology, because we sat here and I've rated Declan Rice, but you lot were waxing lyrical, and it's like no one was taking you lot in. You was like a crazy crackhead outside the train station, and now everybody can see it. Like, listen, I've got no praise. I've got no more words to describe Declan Rice, man.
Yeah, man. I love Declan Rice, man. Like, it broke my heart that he went to Arsenal. I can't lie. But yeah, he's just carried on. One thing that I don't like is, like, you see people online say, like, he's grown as a player. I don't necessarily think he's developed and changed that much.
Doing the same things in an Arsenal shirt, what he's doing in West Ham, really.
He's doing the same things, but he's also being asked to do more, and that's the key thing. And he's playing with, like, let's have it right. He's playing with better players, people like Martin Odegaard and Saka, like, these like players that are on the precipice of becoming world-class players. You know what I mean? So it was a good move for him and a good move for us, because, like I said, I think we've redistributed that wealth that we got for him quite well. And I think
Kudus, another one that should be at the Emirates, if I'm honest, quality.
You got Kudus as well.
Yeah, man, he's quality, and it seemed like he was there for the taking for everyone.
You can't have him. Just like you've taken our, like, our Kingston man.
Bowen,
you know what I mean? You've taken Declan Rice. You can't have the star boy as well. It's that, like, you can't have both, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, let us have something for a bit. But
to be fair, you're probably going to lose Paqueta as well. He seemed like he was going to go City, but the betting stuff, I don't know how that panned out. Another
end of the season, an 85 million clause opens up in his contract. So, as an Arsenal fan, are you paying that? Some people don't want to pay 85 million for Paquetá. I think that's a cheap deal.
You know what? It's not my money, bro. He wouldn't be my first choice target, not because anything to do with him. I just feel we probably need another profile midfielder to sit next to Declan Rice. But if there's money spare, I'm having Paqueta. He's adaptable. He's Brazilian. He can play in the 8. He was one, like, a bit like Bruno Gomes before they kind of ended up where they ended up. They were there and Arsenal fans were waffling about them. And apparently Eddie was in talks, and one reason or another, they're not hearing it. And midfield, you touched on it indirectly as well about Declan Rice playing with better players. I don't feel we're going to see a new look Declan Rice per se throughout his Arsenal career, but I don't think, we're going to see him better on the ball until we address midfield, because the Liverpool game was an anomaly in that Jorginho was kind of, bit deeper than him. Declan Rice was playing in a bit of a different role. But other than that, he's had to chaperone a lot. He's had to hold Kai Havertz's hand. I do think he's improving in the final third, and I do think he could become a player that could get 10 goals all comps. But literally, he's doing everything he was doing in the West Ham shirt, and that's the benchmark. The best praise I can give Declan Rice is that, for me, it's like you've always been here. If I didn't know that you was at West Ham, I would have thought you've been part of the furniture here. Did the move to Arsenal take you by surprise, though? Because he was always linked with Chelsea. It seemed like City was involved, and then we've just got involved.
Nah, not really. It was always going to be him or City, and I think you guys got it fairly unrivaled, really. Like, the move was quite. I say it was quite quick. It kind of dragged on a little bit, but the entire time it was like kind of, we all knew he was going to end up at Arsenal. And even before the end of the season, there was that clip of him with Odegaard getting him to sign his shirt and whatnot. So, like, you could see that there was conversations happening. As a West Ham fan, I hate to say it, like, you can see why he'd want to join Arsenal as well, because of the project, and, like, you guys are only going in one direction, really.
Hopefully.
You're just unfortunate to exist in a world where you've got Man City,
and Liverpool,
and a revitalized Liverpool. Like, but this is what I'm saying. This is where it comes down to expectations of football fans. Because as a West Ham fan, I'm buzzing to be sitting 7th. I really am, because I think, like, if we can sit 7th at the end of the season, that's European qualification for next year. Like, we can attract more players to the club and whatnot. With you guys, like, if you finish 3rd this season, which I think is quite likely, I'll be honest with you.
Amen.
Like, it's complete failure. Do you know what I'm saying?
And that's the problem with Arsenal fans. I do think, obviously, we need to move into that ambition of winning the league. I definitely feel there's some things we could address. Like, no matter how good City and Liverpool are, I know we can't win every game, but you touched on it, the West Ham game. For me, the better team won because you got the 3 points, but it isolated to 90 minutes. What did West Ham do, which we didn't? Put the ball in the back of the net and show them street smartness things about them. I feel we've still got those elements about us that City and Liverpool don't, on top of the experience. And you are right. People would say it's regression. We finished 2nd, then we'd finish 3rd. It's not that I want to say I'll take 3rd. Of course, I'd love to win the league, but I think it's something to move with. I'd say for next season, though, I think where Arteta is concerned, whether he can win a title or something is another thing, bro. But I think there'll be real degrees of expectation. And that's what I mean by the best and worst thing that happened last season was actually fighting for a title, because I think more people may have had some patience, really. Completely off topic, but do you think Bowen goes to the Euros?
He should do.
I mean, so
he's our right winger, but like he's been playing centrally recently with the injury of Mikel Antonio. He's adaptable. I think he offers something different to what other players don't. But Gareth Southgate's got his favourites. He's called him up before, but do I think he's going to like call him up over a Rashford? I just don't know. Like, that's the annoying thing. You know what I mean? Like, he deserves to be there. And another player I'd throw in there is James Ward-Prowse as well. I think
I'm surprised he doesn't get more of a look in where England are concerned. I think he does the basics to a high standard, but I just think what goes against him is he's not as glamorous as some of the more midfield options. But then again, you need that. Like, I'd rather Ward-Prowse go than Henderson. Who knows? For us to go through, it might just take a decent Ward-Prowse delivery, and then we're keeping it moving. But as you said, Southgate plays his favourites, man. Did the Calvin Phillips one take you by surprise?
Not really, man. I think it's a good move. Again, I'm sat here. Like, football fans are fickle, man. I know I sound like I'm slating football fans. You know what I mean? But football fans are fickle. They forget how much of a good player Calvin Phillips was. Like, there's a reason he went for 42 million to Man City.
From Leeds to City, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? He's just unfortunate to not be anywhere near the level of Rodri, and who else is in world football? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe Declan Rice, you can have a conversation, but even then it ain't clear cut. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Rodri's the poster boy of that position, man.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so Calvin Phillips, like, you know, he excites me, like, coming at West Ham. I know he hasn't played football for 18 months. I know he had a poor debut, gave the ball away, led to a goal for Bournemouth. But when you've got like Pep Guardiola coming out and saying, you know, his long-range and passing ability and like his general passing ability is better than Rodri's. And he's up there like a couple of years ago in terms of statistics, with like the best players in the league in terms of defensive turnovers and whatnot. The closest comparison to like another sport is like a quarterback with his long-range passing. Yeah. And for the way that we play, we catch teams on the counter with Kudus or Bowen, you know, progressing the ball up the pitch and holding the ball up in advanced areas. So with Calvin Phillips under our, at our disposal, alongside like a James Ward-Prowse or an Alvarez or even a Soucek when you want to throw him in and whatnot, I think it's a super exciting signing. I think if he's hungry, he's going to want to get to the Euros. And
point to prove.
Do you know what I'm saying? If he's got a point to prove, if he wants to play football, which he clearly does, he's been playing for us, then it's a no-brainer for us. I think we're getting like a quality midfield option. I really do. And let's have it right as well. If he has a good 6 months at us and we don't manage to sign him, like, you wouldn't be surprised if he went and signed for a top 6 club, because
Villa and Newcastle or something else. I think you touched on it. It's just, unfortunately, you've gone to City in it, where, you know, you're almost average because everybody's star-studded and everyone's got quality. And I think the only thing with Calvin Phillips is, you know, you haven't played a lot of football. You have had a lot of knocks, and we're in and amongst the season, so he's going to have to get with it quickly. And I know signings can go wrong, but David Moyes is a very experienced manager. He's been in the game for a long time. If he wasn't convinced that Phillips could bring something, then he wouldn't be at the club. What do you make of West Ham Arsenal, though? Because based on little things you've said, it sounds like two very contrasted styles. I think you lot are a very good counter-attacking team. I think you lot downplay the individual quality of a couple of players. I think you can damage us via set pieces. I think with your midfield trio, or whoever is in midfield versus us, two contrasting styles. But I think that is a very good matchup, really. And I actually think Declan Rice is going to have to do a lot. Like, I think with us against you lot, we have to turn it into a football match. You lot kind of not turning it into a fight, but you lot need to turn it into a poster game for the Premier League, where it's just high turnovers, end-to-end stuff. What are you expecting? Well, it's not even Upton Park anymore, but London Stadium.
Well, yeah, like, I think a key part of the game will be who wins the midfield. And I think I'm not just saying this to be inflammatory, of course, but I think the two worst performances I've seen out of Declan Rice's career has been when he's played against us.
Oh, we agree. We agree.
And that comes down to the fact that we probably just know his game inside out. Obviously, the cup game didn't go very well for you guys, and then obviously you gave away the penalty against Saeed Benrahma in the second half. I think you're right, man. We've got genuine quality. I think Paquetá will be a huge miss. He won't be there for the game.
Oh, he's not there.
No, he's been injured for a little while, man.
That's brilliant for us, man.
You
Hopefully
guys
get well soon.
They got injured in the first half against you guys as well, and then didn't play for the second half. That's where, do you know what I mean?
Didn't it? It's funny how these things work, man.
Yeah. So I'm apprehensive about the game just purely because, like I said, man, we haven't won since the 28th of December against you guys. That's our last win in competitive football. You guys have obviously haven't won in 3. We drew 2-2 last year, then beat you in the cup, and then beat you in the league this year. Like, but going into this game, I really don't know what to expect. You know, I would love to see like a 1-1 draw. I really would, but you put in a strong performance against a tough Liverpool side last week, and you're going to be flying high and full of momentum. And who knows, you might even have a Declan Rice that has a point to prove, and may have got over that emotional damage. But I'm going to back the boys and just say we're going to get a 1-1 draw and hope that, you know, with Mikel Antonio coming back on the side, we can maybe have him running the channels in the middle and Bowen on Kudus in the flanks. I think we can do some damage, you know, through that. But yeah, it's attack the right hand side, you know, Bowen against Zinchenko. I back that.
You said it there, and I think that's the thing with Zinchenko. Unfortunately, I think he's a good player, but you know, if you're talking about what he's good at, it's not really anything defensive. And I feel whether it's Arsenal's strongest team, like if we assumed everybody's fit from Arsenal and just assume Zinchenko's the left back, that's the man you're going to target. You know he's going to invert, and you know he's going to leave space in behind, and you know he's susceptible to obviously falling asleep, as we saw in the League Cup. That's what scares me. The counter-attack scares me, especially if I don't think you lot are just going to live on the counter. I hope you do, because I think you lot tried that against United, or a negative approach, and it didn't work. I think Moyes will learn from that. I think you lot have the quality to make it a fair match, and you lot can exploit set pieces and counter-attacks. I think, you know, based on what your form, looking at your form and what you said, that scares me more, because it's typically look at Fulham. It's sides like this that cause us problems, and obviously you've got nothing to lose. If Arsenal win, there's no paper sold about that. If we lose, then the headlines they wanted to write against Liverpool, obviously, you know, are going to come out. So I'm quite nervous, and it seems like, well, to be honest, since you have come to the Emirates, there's definitely been periods since we moved to the Emirates. Been periods where you guys have just been our bogey team. I don't know what it is. I don't know why you don't like us. We hate Spurs as well, so allow us. But I'm quite nervous, and it seems like David Moyes just seems to have something over Arteta. I don't know if it's the master versus the apprentice, but I'm hoping we can win and keep things moving, because this month is crazy for us, bro. So where would you say your weaknesses are then, if we were trying to exploit them?
It really depends on how David Moyes lines the side up. When we've not had Paquetá in the team, we've really lacked creativity in the middle. There was a period of time where he was playing on the left-hand side and he'd float into the middle almost like as an inside forward, and then it would just make the team tick, you know, with like, you know, with a pass over the top or whatnot, or something magic.
Exactly.
And we are very much missing that at the moment. So without him in the side, it will be on players like Mohamed Kudus and Bowen to just kind of try to expose your weak areas. In terms of what we're missing, that is it. It's just the creativity, I think, for us right now. And it will just depend on how David Moyes lines us up. In our last league game, the game last Thursday where we drew, he started Soucek as like a false 9. And it was almost like an experiment that didn't really work. He played him in like the Fellaini role.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough really to like get the ball to him and like create enough chances and whatnot. So I do worry if we play against an Arsenal side and kind of have that approach that we'll just get picked apart. But it's just creativity that we're lacking right now. How about you? What are you lacking?
A striker who wants to put the ball in the back of the net, I would say. Like we don't have that. Like we don't have that. Whether it's Ivan Toney or whatever, I would say I hope Tomiyasu is going to start, because I don't think, you know, if Arteta named the exact same lineup, obviously, if we lose the game, I'm going to ask questions. But going into it, I can't really have any problems. You've beaten Liverpool. Everyone, I guess, deserves their spot. I think Tomiyasu has to be in there, because I think if you go, the Liverpool game is one thing where Saliba's going to have to hold that. But the Nottingham Forest game, where for us, relatively straightforward, but then we made it an unnecessary nervy 5 minutes because it's a ball over the top again where Zinchenko's concerned. And I just think Tomiyasu needs to be there really, because he gives us a lot of height. Again, you've played football, you know, if you try and take the game to a fullback and you can see that equal to it, then you're going to try something else. If you can see it's working, then that's cash money really and truly. And Kudus and Bowen running into that right hand side or left, that is where for me it's won a loss. In terms of what we're missing, I think it's just a striker, and I think for me, it's the midfield. It's the midfield. I know Declan Rice is mustard. Odegaard's great, but there's a hole in the left eight. I don't know if Kai Havertz is still going to play up front. Jesus has a bit of an injury allegedly. If Havertz goes back to the left eight, then I feel we're going to have problems building up play. I think there's a correlation between Jorginho coming in and us just looking a bit better. Declan Rice can be higher up the field than several players. So I would say for me, it's the midfield. It's that left eight. It's really just the left-hand side. And we know Saka is going to get kicked lumps out of him. There's going to be 3-4 players next to him. Can somebody else pick up the mantelpiece? Because if they're paying attention to Saka, there's got to be someone else. And I look at West Ham and if I had to describe you, I would say street smart. David Moyes, street smart. Your players, street smart. And I think we lacked street smartness at the Emirates. Yeah, we had possession and shots and all of that jazz. And sometimes you play better and lose, but you need to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's something that I feel David Moyes' men, or West Ham in you lot's case, you've had over us in recent games. Do you think there's a bit of a rivalry developing? Because definitely where social media is concerned, I was thinking, wow, like, we've already got enough problems.
Do you know what? Everyone hates you guys, man, because you're the loudest. You're the loudest fans on social media. Every Arsenal fan
crazy online
microphone. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, my hatred for football clubs comes out of the friendships I had as a kid growing up. So I don't like Tottenham, I don't like Arsenal, I don't like Chelsea, because all my best mates are just those teams. You know what I'm saying?
The game, yeah.
Yeah, the game is the game, my friend. So I don't know if there's much of a rivalry. I think between the clubs, like the clubs themselves, probably not, man, because we do business quite often. You know, even in January, we were inquiring for like Emil Smith-Rowe and Reece Nelson.
That was going to break my heart. You could have Nelson, but Smith-Rowe, he can't go, man. He probably will go in the summer, but no.
But yeah, because of that, I feel like the clubs probably don't have much of a rivalry at club level, but there's definitely something between fans, because West Ham are a rowdy bunch, Arsenal are a rowdy bunch,
Weird bunch as well.
We like that you haven't won in 3 games against us. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like it as a West Ham fan that, you went 2-0 up at the London Stadium, Saka misses a penalty, and then we bring it 2-2.
Don't remind me, man. And Declan Rice picked part of his pocket as well. Like, that's what I mean, street smartness, bro. And I'm just thinking you lot are going to try and burst our bubbles. I know that, you lot are the bubble gang and whatnot, but that is what scares me. I wanted to ask you as well, like, this is just a random question. As a West Ham fan, like, do you lot feel at home in your new stadium yet?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one, man, because there's lots of generations in football fans, of course. Like, there's an entire generation of West Ham fans now that don't know Upton Park.
Yeah,
they've been out there the best part of 10 years. For me, I saw both, and they are completely different things. Like, Upton Park was an intimidating atmosphere. It was a throwback to what football really was. And the London Stadium is almost like, it does lack a bit of personality at times, of course, but I've also seen some of the best games of football and best atmospheres of football that I've ever seen. Like when we beat Sevilla at home in the Europa League a couple of years ago, that's the best game I've seen live other than the final in Prague, and that was in a West Ham stadium where 60 plus thousands of fans were all chanting and going in the right direction. So I very much feel like it's what the fans make it. It can be quiet. It can be like quite a vacuous kind of atmosphere, but when it's rocking, it's rocking. We West Ham fans just need to do more to make sure we do that every home game, in every game that we play. Do you know what I mean? As an away fan, I imagine like a lot of fans say it's the worst away day in the Premier League because you're so far away from the pitch.
I was just about to say that. And that's why I was sorry to cut you, but that's exactly why I asked you, because I've been to Upton Park. That's a typical British ground, though it was. And I've been to you lot's new place, and you're very far away. So it's like, can you really get immersed in it like that? Well, go on, man. I cut you off.
I was going to say, well, that's just football, though. Like, that's just, I think that's a sign of like football as a wider kind of game, because I know like Tottenham's new stadium is like incredible. It's like one of the best stadiums in the world, of course.
I don't want to praise them, but you're right about that.
No, you know what I'm saying? But like even the Emirates and like Highbury, there's such big differences. Like, say, for example, you go to like a game at like Selhurst Park or Kenilworth Road. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is like a throwback to like almost like footballs in the 90s. Whereas like these new style stadiums are like, they're good. And I love going to games, don't get me wrong, but they're like a different product.
It's like going to concerts.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like concerts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Burna Boy will came to the London Stadium over
exactly. That's
what I'm saying. So like the game can be there on a Saturday and then Burna Boy can come on Sunday. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like those kind of things like are always going to contribute to, but football's a business and it's there to make money. As a fan, I can get on board with it because I have good experiences there. I love the games when I go there. The camaraderie of like West Ham fans is still there. there's much more tourism, attributed to the clubs. You get a lot of like international fans come over, and because it's like a super central stadium, you get a lot of like,
right next to Westfield and that as well.
I'm saying, man, we get a lot of Ghanaian fans as well of now because of Mohamed Kudus and whatnot. And I think that's the kind of avenues that people don't see, that having a bigger stadium and more of like a, just a bigger stadium. That's the kind of things that it brings
it's a
to club.
strategic move, man. I think Chelsea probably need to do that at some point. Theirs is a bit delicate, but Arsenal went through that. Spurs went through that. You lot went through that. I've seen some news about Man United are trying to get their new stadium. Everton are in their rumblings. Even the Barcelonas in Madrid. So it is something that's necessary, and I think it's a bit of a weird one, because football's a global game, innit? Everyone, regardless of what they look like, should like it. But then I do think the clubs, or better yet, the stadiums, lose their bit of touches and their roots a bit via that. So it's almost like catch-22, if I'm completely honest with you, man. It's crazy. What have you made of Arsenal this season?
Watching them from afar, I feel like you're not as good as last year, but in terms of offensively, I think you're like 7th highest in the league in terms of goals.
100%, you're bang on.
But I think defensively, you're a lot more solidified. Obviously, having Saliba fit, Gabriel playing well. I think the only real weak point in your defense is like left back, or when Zinchenko occasionally makes a mistake. But I think you got 2 keepers that are kind of like, I know you're going with you're not going with Ramsdale at the moment, but I feel like Ramsdale was an okay option. And obviously the signing of Declan Rice, obviously Declan Rice is just doing what Declan Rice does. So from afar, I see you guys playing probably some of the best football in the league. I'm fortunate enough to have been to the Emirates a few times in my life, and like the atmosphere at your stadium, like you can clearly see, like you guys are loving the football there at the moment. I was there for the first Champions League game actually this year that you guys played. Who was it against? The Dutch team. The Dutch team. You won that 5-0. Can't think of who it was.
It's gone through my mind.
Was it PSV? I think it's PSV, wasn't it? Was it PSV?
It's either PSV or Lens. There was one of them we batted. I think Lens is French. Whoever it was, man. I was there as well, so I should really remember this.
Man,
he's on fire, man. I don't know.
Looking from the outside, like, I look at you guys and I think, I feel sorry. This is crazy. I'm saying this publicly. I feel sorry for you guys. I really do, because I feel like any team that have got like ambitions for the title are always going to come up short in a league where Man City exists. You know what I mean? And there is always like the ethical kind of things associated to Man City and all the charges that they've got kind of looming over them, and all these other teams in the league that seem to be getting charged, but Man City are getting away with 115. So it would seem. So crazy. I feel sorry for you guys in that way, where you've got a team that are so relentless. And I feel very similar towards Liverpool fans as well, because throughout Klopp's tenure, for example, imagine if Man City were in the league, how many Premier League titles he'd have, for example. So it must be tough. Like, you guys are clearly a good team. I do still think you are get-atable, though, if you know what I mean by that.
No, we definitely are.
I feel like Declan Rice has brung some real leadership to your team, and he's got that bite. He's the kind of guy that's going to get you through the tough moments, and we've seen it, at Luton. We've seen it at Man City. He scored big goals in big moments for you guys. But I do still feel like when the going gets tough, you might have a little bit of a soft underbelly. And when, the age-old saying is that Arsenal come down with the Christmas decorations. You started you started the year well. You didn't have a good Christmas, so it'll be
terrible Christmas and New Year.
Interesting to see like what your April and May look like, and whether you can actually sustain the charge this year, or if you drop a few clangers like Southampton or West Ham away. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what jars me about my football club, because, I agree with everything you're saying about Liverpool and more about City, because they're the big bad bullies. And I can't expect my club to, or any club really, to win every game, get 100% of the points. But that's where I think we're in line of our project with what we're doing. I've got nothing but praise. But if we're removing that and looking at a title, then you have to be a lot harsher, because these variables make the difference. And I still think we've got this element of self-capitulation and not controlling the controllables. Like, this is going to sound mad. I don't think I'm not saying this to say Arsenal are the biggest and baddest in the world, but I don't think there's been many times where we've been outplayed, even when we've lost games. But that's what annoys me more, because we should be getting more points. We showed a lack of street smartness against you lot, against Villa, against Newcastle. There's probably a few other games in that as well. well. And, you know, you look at Spurs or Chelsea, we've shot ourselves in the foot, Fulham twice as well. In fact, to be fair, the only times I think we've been outplayed, you lot in the League Cup, we was absolutely shit. Like there's nothing around that, rotated squad or not. Fulham away from home, we was crap as well. But that's what annoys me more, because these are the small variables that you can control. And if you are going to win a league, which I think is, well, it's not impossible, but incredibly unlikely, I think you need to do a lot better at that, really. And that's what jars me. I hope that this is our blip that you mentioned in December and we're out of it now. But Liverpool and City are going to drop points. We're also going to drop points. And I don't think there's too many more times we can do that or afford to do that. And I think we're at that stage now where you need external factors to fall for you. Like you need City to get some injuries or start dropping points. You need Liverpool to kind of fall down, and we need to almost guarantee we can get full points. And, you know, we've got to go to a difficult place for us with you lot on the weekend. We've obviously still got to go to the Etihad. People can say what they want about Man United, but we don't typically travel well there, you know, so we've got to get points there. I don't know. There's a lot to be said, and I am a bit annoyed with Mikel Arteta. I love him to bits. I think he's a good manager, but I feel when he comes out and says things like we've got the smallest squad, if you said that in the first year, I hear that, but you've been here 4 years now. You're smart enough to not be saying that. If I'm honest, obviously,
yeah,
I know injuries.
Mentality. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like we keep doing that, bro.
Yeah, and just to draw it back to what you said earlier, obviously, like lacking a striker and whatnot. I think the main thing that you've been missing, and obviously you spoke about it in December and spoke about the game that you lost to us. I think you've really struggled at times this season just to put teams away. Like I remember in the West Ham game, you had 30 shots on target or whatnot. And
ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole kind of game was kind of around that narrative. But it was like all about quality of chances and like what actual opportunity you had to put the ball in the net. And other than like a few, you know, good saves from Mariota, there wasn't really enough. And that came down to just, you know, your front three not really producing high quality chances to go and take the game. And then West Ham, on the other hand, you know, we were more ruthless, more clinical. It was just like more street smart. When we got a set piece, we scored a header. You know what I'm saying? So just being able to put teams away is like something that you guys might be missing. So that's why I do worry for you, you know, in the judgment part of the season, because we've seen over the last couple of years, you saw like missing out on top four, and then last year what happened. So yeah, it's an interesting one when it comes to Arsenal. I always, you know, whenever I see Arsenal lose, I do like tip my hat and, you know, I have a good day. Don't get me wrong. But
I watch all the fan channels. I hear it. The game's the game, man. I'm the same. Like, oh, it's quite mad, man. My last question for you then, man. Score predictions. I know you got to back your boys. I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal because honestly, I think it's going to be a draw, but I'm trying to positively speak things into existence. So I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal. Same scoreline as the Liverpool game, man. Okay.
I'll go with 1-1. Just purely because we're not winning games at the moment. We're not conceding too many. Man United game aside, of course. I'll go 1-1. I think we've got quality to damage you, and I don't think you'll score too many against us.
And I mean, and you said it there indirectly just before you answered the question, set pieces. I hope that we've obviously, the best thing that we could do is just go and watch the West Ham game at the Emirates and learn from that, really. So hopefully we can do that, man. Before I let you get out of here, Jamie, man, I know you said at the start, but let us know where they can find you once again and all the platforms you feature on and all of that stuff, man.
Love, man. Yeah, so everyone, you can catch me at Jamie Talks on all socials. Yeah, do a lot of West Ham based content. Most recent YouTube video I did was with Nigel Reo-Coker. I don't know if any of you remember him. Ex West Ham captain, under 21 captain,
man. England under 21 legend, man. He's
exactly.
Played like 500 games for them.
Go check that out on the Jamie Talks YouTube channel and Jamie Talks and everything else. Thanks for having me, man.
Minor Jamie. Again, all the information will be in the description of the YouTube vid. When you're done, Jamie, send me the interview of the Nigel Reo-Coker thing, and we'll get that in there as well, man. May the best team win on Sunday, my friend, man. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing your content when you lot lose. The fingers, everything crossed, man. But yeah, man, make sure you're following Jamie and the West Ham lads content. Make sure you're hitting the like button and let us know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with everything we've discussed. But on that note, Jamie and everyone, peace. We're out. Safe.
There's always that active red line defending. I think it's like